Hey,
Hey, okay, I can hear you now.
you
That
can
was,
hear me? All right.
yeah, that was very strange. I couldn't, for some reason, I couldn't hear you for a bit.
So if you're using a desktop or a laptop, then we have issues. Otherwise, we're good to go.
Yeah, no, we're on the phone.
All right, all right. So how are you doing today?
Doing good. Yourself?
I'm doing fine.
Yeah,
Can't complain. Yeah.
it's quite late over there for you, isn't it?
Yes, I like to do it when everybody's sleeping, so I have my full attention.
Nice, nice. Oh my goodness. That's amazing how you
Will
can just bring up that energy at the end of the day.
yeah. Uh, Before we dive into our conversation, just a brief introduction about yourself for the audience.
Sure. Well, my name is William. I'm 44 years old, born and raised in Canada. Parents were from Taiwan, and yeah, married for oh goodness, 5 years now, and yeah, married for 5 years now. Father of two young boys. One is almost five. The other one is 3.5.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So, were you guys dating before you guys got married?
Uh, we were, yeah, exactly 2 years. So our
Okay.
2 year anniversary is coming, or sorry, our dating anniversary slash wedding anniversary is coming up very soon, and
Uh,
yeah, except we were friends for 9 years before that.
ooh, ooh.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
we knew, we hung out, and we always placed each other on this pedestal, but never had the courage to actually get together.
ah. So,
Yeah.
so then, what happened after 9 years that you guys started dating?
Well, during the 9 years, we went through a lot of different experiences with different people, and I was doing a lot of personal development work on myself and trying to get over uh, my own limiting beliefs. And then in the end, it got to the point when I felt like, you know what, like I do deserve a woman like that. I do want a woman like that. I'm not just going to have her as the person who is like my target, like the person who I'm gonna compare other people to. It's like, no, I'm just gonna go after the main prize. And yeah, and same thing with her. I think she had a hard time believing that she deserved someone uh, like me
Mm-hmm.
for, I guess, what she saw in me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and so, um, uh, and we got to work on that as well together when we became a couple, when we started dating, uh, we practiced a lot of that open and honest communication of what was coming up for us, what was uh, uh, I guess what was the self doubt that was coming up? Um, what were the worries that were coming up? And being able to help each other through that.
Right, right. So what I'm understanding is that effective communication during that time kind of help you guys bridge that gap of the self-doubt and feeling of not being worthy of each other before.
Absolutely, yeah. It was about with the open and honest conversations. It was about letting up whatever was coming up, not hiding it, not
Mm,
allowing anything to be bottled in, all right, or masked or like repackaged, right? I
mm.
remember, I think it was our third date. We again just still as friends. We went on a hike, and bit of a funny story. So we got to this clearing, and we were just leaning against this rock, and we were talking about some of our doubts and some of our fears that were coming up, and just giving each other space to process this. And then all of a sudden, I let out this huge fart, like like a huge one, and the problem was it echoed, it bounced off of the rock, and then back towards the forest, and then all of a sudden birds started flying out from the forest, and she's just looking at me like, I can't believe you did that. And my heart sank. I was thinking, oh my gosh, I've just ruined everything. 9 years down the drain. And then instead I just said, Well, or open and honest, how about that?
I love that.
So yeah, and we always kind of bring that up where it's like, hey, you know what? Like we're willing, being willing to look bad in front of each other,
Mm,
right? Not putting up that front, not putting up that mask.
mm. So,
Mm.
so how when you're being yourself, of course we know that in this space, in the development field, we know that being yourself, being real, being authentic is the way forward. But when do you think it's safe to put off all the masks and show the person in front of you your worst and then be okay that this is my worst? Would you stay?
Mm. I mean, it's interesting because I've actually been learning a bit about that lately. I It's kind of interesting. I will tend to explore different extremes of different philosophies. So, for example, with men's work, on one hand on one hand you have stoicism, right? It's like just do not react, respond, never let the world know what you're feeling, take full responsibility for your own emotions, right? On the other hand is uh, naked vulnerability,
Mm,
right? And it's just like, this is what I'm feeling, this is my inner child, and all that. There's a time and a place, I discovered,
mm,
you know. Um, I was actually, this is very, very recent, just in the last couple of weeks, I was letting my wife know that, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed lately, and I just really need uh, some validation, some recognition, right? I just need some encouragement that I can do this. And unfortunately, it was during a time that she was feeling very insecure about things, uh, financially, about like other things. Her hormones were starting to come up as well, so it was not a good time for
mm.
me to not be stable, right? And that was one of the things that I discovered, was that there is a time and a place. Uh, on a first date, depending on where somebody is at, would you let your deepest, darkest secrets out? Probably not.
No.
No,
Right.
no, there probably wouldn't be a second date, right? However, at the same time, it's like also like testing the waters, and testing, like, okay, do I have permission to vomit on you? Do I have, are you capable of receiving it right now? And I think that's one of the things that we forget sometimes in a relationship, is that we expect our partner to be ready all the time,
Mm,
to be on standby, to be on call for us. And it's not fair to them. We
mm,
need to check in and see where they're at before we're going to unload a burden on them.
mm.
And that shows
So
up in so many different ways.
right. So you think, for a couple, if one partner is feeling overwhelmed or is going through something and they want to discuss with their partner, the best thing is first check in and say, "Hey, are you open to having conversation? I'm going through something. Are you ready?" And then see how they respond, and then have that communication. And if they're not ready, just wait.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the same principle as if, I don't know, a phone salesperson called. And if you're in the middle of something and you're cooking dinner and you've got a kid hanging off of you, and they're saying, hey, I want to tell you about this offer. Well, no, no, you are going to be triggered. You're going to be like, no, F off. I do not have time for this. Right?
Right.
Exact same thing. And, I think that's one of the things uh, that we forget, that we take for granted sometimes, is
Mm,
that we expect our um, our partners to be infallible, to be on call, to be 100% there for us, to be
right.
100% strong, and
Mm,
we forget that they're human too, and that they have their own life and they have their own things going on.
right. Absolutely, absolutely. I really liked when in the beginning you said that you were feeling overwhelmed, and talk a little, shed some light on that. Do you, I personally in my space, I believe I've come across men who believe that bottling up and not and having a mask and showing that you're masculine is the way forward, whereas being a bit more on the awareness side can feel that energy that you're holding back for whatever reasons. So how can you dismantle that for men right now listening to you, and to say to them it's safe to not bottle up and show yourself, and that does not take away your masculinity?
Hmm. Hmm. Um, I guess that's the thing is that it's not so much for me as a man to tell another man that it's okay, because in the end, he's not talking with me. If he was talking with me, then yes, I would let him know. But let's say if if it was his wife who wanted that vulnerability, wanted him to open up, but then he didn't feel emotionally safe with his wife,
Mm,
then he'll never open up to her, right?
mm,
There was um, if there was a an event where he tried to open up and he got shut down, then he wouldn't feel safe later on to open up. He would uh, go back into, I see this a lot, into his childhood coping mechanisms of, for a lot of men, it's video games or working on
mm,
the car or,
mm,
just going off and just working,
mm.
and people in general, not just men, but people in general are going to go uh, and put their attention wherever they're getting attention, right?
True. Mm,
They're going to uh, they're going to go and put in energy wherever they're getting the reward, right?
right.
Wherever they're getting the recognition, wherever they're getting the validation or that emotional safety. So,
Mm,
um, so if let's say if a woman wants to foster that at home with him, wants to foster a bit more opening up, well, she's got to create the space for it. It's not up to him to get over himself
mm,
necessarily. To a degree, yes,
yeah.
but it's like if you don't feel um, like it's safe to, why would you ever?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So how do women create that space? Like, what are some of the things you would want women to know?
Um, there's there's a concept I've been toying with for probably the last 10 years called verbal aikido, right? Or
Okay.
verbal judo or whatever. And basically uh, it's a matter of stepping into somebody's center of gravity. Imagine like, if you had two people and I'm trying to push you over, well, I can't push you over from where I'm standing. I need to step into where you are, and then I can spin you around,
Right, right,
right?
right.
And that is uh, the same thing goes with our emotions, with our perspectives. Um, uh, Oftentimes, the problem that I hear a lot of from both women and men, and also from my own experience as well, is guy comes home, uh, wife is exhausted and overwhelmed, and saying, "Hey, I need this from you," and he's thinking, "Well, hey, I'm exhausted. I need this. I need to just chill out. Please don't." And then an argument
Yeah.
ensues because they're just speaking from their own perspectives.
Mm,
They're from where they're standing, right? And so
right.
uh, to foster that in anybody, whether whether it's a husband trying to get his wife to open up or a wife to get her husband to open up, it's about stepping in and seeing him, hearing him,
Mm,
right?
mm, mm.
Uh, Saying, hold on one second, I'm getting some. we go. Uh, you think about like a toddler, right? You know,
Right.
a toddler having a tantrum, right? If you scream back at the toddler, they're just going to become more guarded. They're going to become more angry, more frightened,
Mm.
right? Uh, and what do they teach us to do instead? Is they teach us to get down on their level,
Level.
to
Yeah.
listen, to see them, to recognize, to acknowledge their feelings, right?
Right.
You don't have to put up with it. You don't have to like allow the tantrum to take over and steer the direction of the family. But at the
Mm.
same time, it's like you need to see them, you need to hear them, let them feel that they've been seen and heard and loved and that they're safe before they're going to move on,
Mm.
before they can actually open up their listening. You know,
Mm.
and I think that's the thing that a lot of uh, a lot of couples are missing, is that they're just
Yes.
coming from their own victim approach, their own fatigue, their own overwhelm, and saying, I need this from you, versus I see you, I see you're overwhelmed. Thank you so much for what you're doing. I appreciate you, I love you, and how can I support you? And then from there, the guard comes down, and then
Mm.
they can turn around and return the favor in most
Right.
cases.
Most kids. Right, right, right.
Yeah.
I think me being a woman, I think that I can communicate more effectively, and men usually don't give that back. So it's like that they're discarded all the time, and showing their affection, their love, or their care is considered a sign of weakness in the relationship dynamic. So they kind of hold that power by staying more masculine and keeping you more distant. And I guess, of course, then cultural backgrounds also come in role, where you come from and all that. But usually I've seen that men tend to hold the affection because that makes them have the upper hand, or feel like they have the upper hand. I hope
Mm.
that's making sense.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because I was thinking the exact same thing. Was, there are cultural influences as well. Um, uh, Funny enough, uh, a lot of my audience is from India, Pakistan, uh, Indonesia, Malaysia, and very patriarchal type of societies, right? And I think one of the things that's happened is that because just in the last few decades, women have really stepped into not being in the back burner, not just being the stay-at-home, quiet, uh, uh, the quiet role, but like actually stepping into their power, and then the men haven't adapted to
Mm.
that, right? They're still holding on to that traditional thing, and even a lot of times I'll see in the comments or I'll get DMs uh, where the woman is also working full time,
Mm.
just because stuff is really expensive now.
Right.
And
Yes.
so it takes two incomes, right?
Right.
And so the woman is working full time, but then she's also taking care of everything at home, and then the guy is still kicking up his feet,
Mm.
right? And so I think there's also like a shift where, whereas men, we need to also, if we're going to adapt, like, you know what, if the traditional roles work for you, great,
Mm. Great. Right.
awesome, like
Mm.
like keep it simple, right? Keep it totally simple. She's at home, you're breadwinning, it's simple math, right?
Mm.
But the
Right.
problem is most people don't live in that sort of vacuum, right?
Mm.
That's that's not the state of our world anymore, right? That's
Mm.
not the state of most people's upbringing, you
Mm.
know. And if anything, like I've seen a lot of a lot of men kind of being brought up so that they are overly mothered. They
Mm.
are kind of becoming too dependent on this emotional mothering
Mm.
from, it starts off with the parent and then it gets transferred to the partner. And then the
Mm.
partner also is thinking, well, I'm in a state of overwhelm and I don't want to, I'm already mothering these new children. I don't want to mother my husband as well. What a
Mm.
turnoff,
Mm.
right?
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, it is very interesting to see, just cultural shifts and, and just people not adapting, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you something really funny. So I'm from Pakistan.
Hmm.
And when I moved to the States, I was working in a daycare and I saw dads come in. So this is like my very first year working, and I see dads coming and they're coming, hey, so they come to pick the kid, right? And they're like, oh, I gotta go home, I'm gonna cook dinner before the wife comes in. And I was like, well, okay, wait, you're gonna what? You're gonna what? Do what again, please? And then they'll say, you're gonna go home and cook dinner. I say, you cook dinner for your wife? And say, yeah. I said, and how does that go for you? And then it's pretty good. Like 3 days I cook, 3 days she cooks. And I say, really? So men like you exist? And they're like, yeah, we do exist. So it was like really shocking for me. Like I couldn't like really register seeing a man coming in, picking up their child, and then saying, oh, I'm going to go home, being very happy also, and I'm going to cook for my wife before she comes home. So I learned a lot in that culture, living there, and then coming back here, you see a totally different picture. Your husband works from a 9 to 5 job, and once he comes home, it's like he's done you a favor. So like, don't even ask him to like pick up his water glass from the lounge and take to the kitchen. So then there's this huge like void or gap where I'm coming from a different culture, I've got a different exposure, and I've come back, and that was one of the main reasons I got attracted to your page. I was like, I need to teach that to men in my country. This is how you need to show up for women. How are we going to resolve conflicts without fighting? How are we going to show up, right? And if the traditional role works, fine, but define it. Let's sit and have that conversation. Not just not come to these assumptions in our head that this is what she's going to do because she's my wife. And like you said, nowadays you see a lot of women working. So they're working, they're taking care of the kids, they're taking care of the home, and they're taking care of the husband. So then women think, like, if I got to do everything, then why am I with him?
Yeah,
That kind of mindset.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, there's so many comments and messages from women who have left their husbands because the husbands have rendered themselves obsolete, you know?
Right.
And it's just like, okay, well, um, if if family is really the most important thing to you, then why are you putting all your effort elsewhere,
Mm,
right? And
right.
now, at the same time, it's like, I think one of the things that's very uh, under discussed is, you know, even amongst men, is the what's going on after kids come into the picture,
Mm,
and here's the thing is like, becoming a parent is so terrifying for a lot of people. Like, you have a very real possibility of failing, of having this like little delicate human being die on you if you don't do things right. There's no instruction manual, there's no owner's manual, there's no course. There's just, okay, it comes out now, boom,
mm,
go make it work. And so that is the that is the point where you get so much marital trauma built
mm,
up, so much marital resentment. We call it the fourth trimester, the first 3 months after a child is born, because there's just so much building up. You are sleep deprived, you are under extreme stress, right? For um, I mean, for both sides, you're learning how to communicate under stress, possibly for the first time in
mm,
the relationship as well.
mm,
Uh, you have all sorts of programming from childhood coming up, right? Whatever modeling, whatever parental modeling that you had, whether it serves you or not, whether you believe in it consciously or not, it's going to come up, right?
mm,
Those expectations that were never said are now going to be imposed onto your partner.
mm.
Um, and I think one of the things that goes unsaid though is with guys, we don't we don't think that we can do it. That lack of belief in ourselves, that lack of self-belief that we can actually provide for um, a growing family on our own now, because obviously, like when she's recovering, when she's giving birth, like the woman is like, she's done, she is not working, right? And so I feel like a lot of men go into that survival mode of, oh my gosh, now all this duty of being of a provider is on my shoulders. And yes, it sounds juvenile, right? Like a lot of times we think, well, no, but you're supposed to do that. That's
Right.
your job. That's your duty. But then that's also where a lot of these kind of toxic masculinity types come in and say, well, that's, child rearing is your duty, taking care of the home is your duty, right? And so if we're going to be imposing these sort of expectations on people and ourselves, well, we kind of have to ask ourselves, like, is this really serving us? Is this really helping our mental state? And that's the thing, a lot of guys don't talk about that. They don't talk about that inner burden that they're feeling, and then so they'll just retreat into work. They'll retreat more into, well, I am doing my job, I am taking care of the family, nobody else is going to take care of the family, so now I'm going to put 100% of my effort and my energy onto this. For some, it's an avoidance mechanism as well, right? Because they know that they can fail in this other department, right? Also, think about this. Think about how often this comes up in the first 3 months, right? Husband's trying to help out, doing a feeding, changing a diaper or something, and then the tired mom who's still recovering says, "No, you idiot! That's not how you do it."
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what is he going to do? He's going to think and get reinforced the belief that, you know what, this isn't my department. I'm going to go and focus my attention to where I'm good
Good
at.
at, right.
Yeah. And so
Right.
that's the thing. It's like, um, we just want to help couples see each other and be able to repair some of the damage that was done, right? And then
Right.
maybe like stop reinforcing into going into their own separate arenas when it's not serving them as a couple, when it's not serving them as a family. Have them play together as a team again versus as opponents or different, maybe competing departments of the family unit.
Right. Right. And I think it all again then boils down to having effective communication, like at every point, try to communicate what's going on. And I know that right now we're in the space we're talking. I know I'm a mother of two kids. Uh, and once a woman delivers and once she's going through the sleepless nights, and she's really like irritable, uh, it's hard to understand at that point. Right now, it feels very reasonable when we're talking, but once we're in that situation, I know if I were to close my eyes and go back in that situation and think like you're saying, it's not going to be reasonable at that time, because that's not how the brain's working. You're tired, you're exhausted, everything is getting to you. So kind of like still giving yourself that space and then coming back and having that conversation. um, and maybe you do snap and you say what you just said to your husband, but just after a few minutes you collect yourself and go and say, hey, listen, I really appreciate you helping me with the kid, and what you were doing was amazing. I've just had a lack of sleep, or I'm not just doing too well. Again, just kind of having that open communication, letting them know that we do appreciate them. It's not that we don't appreciate them. It's just that we're just coming from our own space, coming through that, oh, I'm so tired, I have not done this. So that victim kind of mindset because of the pressure. Having kids is a lot of pressure, which mostly parents don't understand. And it's only once you have the kid you understand. Because when I got married and I had my kids, I was overjoyed. to be having a kid. But once I had the baby, I realized there's a lot of pressure. This little baby now depends on their well-being, depends on me. So I used to, like, at night, I won't sleep, I would get up and check if the baby was breathing. I was so worried if they were breathing or not, or if the blanket didn't come off and they went on their face and they're not breathing. So it's a lot of emotional stress, but it's also and I would never tell that to my husband. I would just be doing these weird things, and I wonder what he thought. She crazy or something. But I would be constantly checking, putting on the light and seeing. But it's again, when you're going through that, kind of like bringing your partner in, you're on the same team and telling them, this is why I'm doing this, this is where I'm coming from, this is why it's happening, with my son, I was diagnosed with depression, and it was really hard. And I never told my husband, I never told anybody. I didn't take the medication because I was breastfeeding, and I thought I would be a horrible mom if I took medication. So I just went through it for 4 months. It didn't affect me then, but it affected me later in life. uh, so kind of like, I wish I could go back and change it, because of the effects it had on me. But what I'm trying to get towards and lean towards, it's, if you stop getting in your head and thinking it's not going to help, and just actually coming forward and speaking about it with your partner and understanding that they're on your team, whether you realize it or
Exactly.
not, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And I mean, like, there's one thing to um, that is such a huge point, is like, going back and owning the past, owning the, you can't change the past, but you can go back and you can acknowledge it and own it and say, hey, that wasn't me, and I hope you can see that, right?
Right.
um, you were talking about communication, and one of the things we're working on is a communication course. uh, I remember when when I met my in-laws, my wife's parents, for the first time, and it was beautiful. I remember they gave us a piece of advice. They said, you know what, conflicts are going to happen, arguments are going to happen, right? Anytime you bring two people in who have different life experiences and different perspectives, there are going to be arguments. The important thing is, how do you argue? Are you arguing constructively or destructively?
Mm.
And and later on, we realize as well, is this constructive or destructive communication isn't just how you're speaking, but it's also how you're listening. Because
Mm.
communication is also, half of it is listening. And so if you are listening destructively, if you were, let's say, we were going through that fourth trimester, and you were sleep deprived, and you were yelling at me to put my down water cup into the kitchen sink because your hands are full. And if I took offense to that, right, and I started thinking, oh, she hates me, oh, like, I'm not deserving of love, like, oh, this baby is ruining our life, right?
Mm.
Well, that's also on me
Mm.
to own that destructive listening, right?
Mm.
And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people just forget about. They put the onus on the person saying something, and then put the onus on the person to apologize to them, when it's like,
Mm.
okay, well, where were they coming from, right? Where's the empathy? Where can I see, like, how can I put an empowering filter onto this, a filter that is actually going to serve our relationship?
Mm. Right. Right. Absolutely. And then you said, a constructive conflict. Could you like explain it in more detail? Uh, how would that work in a dynamic where both of the partners are not being reasonable? When conflicts happen right now, we're in a more comfortable space. But when issues arise, or when somebody's triggered, it's hard to reason with them. So, and in that state, what would you advise someone to do?
Well, what my wife and I have done is we've set up what we call ground rules. And
Okay.
so, because for a while we were realizing, like, our communication is getting very destructive. It is getting to the point where it's like mutually assured destruction.
Mm.
And and we thought cannot continue down this path. So what we ended up doing was we ended up uh, uh, getting some child support, and then just having a few hours together, and not bringing up any past topics, but just saying, hey, you know what, here's the rules of engagement, right? And we don't always follow them. Okay.
Right, right. I like that.
but but the fact is, it's like, you know, we have them there, and we strive for them, right? Just knowing that they're there, knowing that they have, when we do follow them, it does work better in our relationship. So we strive for them, and some of them are no bringing up the past, right? We're just going to focus on the present issue, right? We're not going to relate to this
Yes.
all the times. You
Yeah.
did that, right?
You did that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're just going to focus on the present issue at hand. Give space, right?
Right.
So if either of us is feeling triggered, or either of us, you know, is starting to get a bit more destructive in our communication, we are allowed to say, you know what, I need space right now, right? I
Mm,
need physical space, just so that we can come back with cooler heads.
mm.
Also, what are, you know what, I'm gonna have to, I have it on my phone. uh I think things like that, you know, and for every couple, it's going to be a little bit different, right?
Absolutely. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, whatever, again, whatever works best for you,
Mm,
uh, whatever is. Oh yeah, argue constructively versus destructively. That was another thing, right? No name calling,
mm.
no insults, right? We're not going to attack each other's character, right? We're
Right.
just going to talk about the facts and try to not bring uh, heavy emotions into it.
Right. Right. Gotcha. I think what it's all boiling down to is just kind of like really being vulnerable and open from the beginning of having effective communication, because so many things come into play. Like you said, when two people come together and they live together, I think mostly now generation have no tolerance, and they don't understand that not everything's going to be perfect, right? And you said it beautifully, we don't follow the format ourselves at times. So you being real, right? So keeping it real, that this relationship, first kind of like understanding this was really worth fighting for, and then understanding that we're going to have hard times, and the plan is to stick together with consistency, showing up for each other, and really say, because there's so many things that come into play when you live together, because then there are the attachment styles, you know, how you were brought up, the anxious one, the avoidant one, the secure one, and there's so many. And then kind of understanding, I think it's really about understanding yourselves. The more you understand yourself better, the more better you will communicate it to your partner, and vice versa, because when you're doing that, you're kind of allowing the person in front of you to feel safe to be themselves as well, right? So I think it's all of this is just boiling down to the fact that we love each other enough to work through our challenges, our bad days, and when things are not looking so good in the relationship.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's about expanding that expanding that time horizon, right?
Right.
Because we could look at the next 5 minutes, the next hour, and think, oh my gosh, the relationship is doomed, where we were never meant to be together. Versus, it's like, is that how far you were looking when you said yes, when you said I do, when you know, right? You were looking at a lifetime of of a time frame. And
Mm,
so it's like, okay, well, are you allowed to have dips? You know,
mm,
and actually, it's I remember somebody illustrating it. It's like, okay, you know, in life you have these highs, and then it's going to dip, and then you have another high, and then dip, and it's going to be like this, right? And then
right,
it'll be
right.
really high, and then really low, and all this. Well, you know what? It's a heartbeat. It's how you know
Mm,
that you're alive, right? Imagine if
exactly.
life was stable, well,
Mm.
you'd be dead.
Mm. Too
Yeah,
boring.
it'd be too boring, you know, and that's just
Yeah,
not how we're wired,
right,
right?
right.
And so,
Uh,
the I think the challenge in life is just to learn how to regulate ourselves, not like, you know, to numb out, but
right.
to enjoy the highs, to value the lows and learn from them, you know. And you know, a low is just a low. It's just feedback. It's not. There's nothing good, bad, right, or wrong about it. It's just that's where we're at. And you know what? If we're in this point and we don't want to be there, well, how can we put in structures? How can we work together so that we don't hit that point again?
Again, right. Absolutely, absolutely. So Will,
Mhm.
what what was the turning point, or what inspired you to start your own programs and stuff? Was it because of the challenges you and your wife were going through? Uh, what inspired you? I really like the name. It's Custom Tailored Man. I love that
Okay.
name.
Oh, you do. What
Yeah.
what comes up? I was just curious, like what comes up for you? What
The
what
perfect
image
man.
evokes?
The
Oh,
perfect man.
oh, okay. Oh, I am. Interesting. Okay, because I might need to change it then, because I'm trying to
Custom tailored.
show or trying to get away from that mask of perfection as well. Like very recently, you know, I had a luxury watch that I sold because um, one big reason was because it was my ego was starting to depend on it too much, you
Mm,
know. And for the custom tailoring, I mean, it's I've been a custom clothier for the last 13 years,
okay.
so that's kind of where it's come from.
Okay.
Um, but it's also like, you know what, I'm trying to get away from
Mm,
that that armor, that shield, you know, that lack of vulnerability, right? And so yeah, but anyway, how it came about is it's interesting. So my wife has been creating content for the last about 3 years,
okay.
4 years, and
Okay.
uh, especially after our second son was born, it was a very very tough pregnancy for her, and she, you know, really struggled with uh, body image and just mental health afterwards. And she started to post up things that were just vulnerable and uh, you know, just this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm going through. If anybody else feels me, and what was amazing was that she started to she started to attract an audience of other mothers who could relate, other mothers who were like, I've been there, or I'm there right now. I thought I was the only one, and it blew up. Like I think she is at 70, 80,000 followers now. Um, uh, you know, again with that with that message of embracing imperfection, and uh, and what was interesting is, like, you know, sometimes she'll put up stuff and she'll have me guest star and we'll act out a scene which she'll find an audio. And there was an audio I was listening to. It was a female divorce lawyer, and I was listening to it and I felt very triggered by it. And I
Mm,
thought, you know, and it was saying uh, she ended up using the audio and changing up the caption a little bit, but it started off with the statement like, men think that just because they whatever, and it just sounded very very much on the attack,
okay.
right? And
Right.
I felt triggered, and I felt my defenses come up right away, and I just thought, my gosh, like, if if the message is very important, but if it could just be said from a male perspective, like, it would be so much easier to digest, right? I wouldn't
Mm,
feel if I heard this exact same uh, message coming from, say, Ed Milet or Tony Robbins or something.
right.
I'd be like, okay, like, all right, he's been there. I can relate to that.
Right.
But because it was coming from like a very accusatory tone, I thought, okay, well, this isn't helping. This is actually
Mm,
creating more division.
mm,
Um, And so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna write some stuff and record it and uh, save my wife some time from having to like search for audios. And they started taking off. And I thought, okay, well, it's just because she's got 70, 80,000 followers, like, you know, because the algorithm
There comes
already
the
likes
self-doubt
her.
again.
Yeah, exactly. I thought, oh, it's just because I'm just piggybacking off her algorithm, whatever, right?
Right.
It's fine. And she would be sending me texts like, oh my gosh, you're at like, you know, 700 followers now. You're at like 750. And I thought like, okay, well, you know, it's whatever. I'm just helping out. But then, you know, we had one reel hit 3 million, and then another
Oh,
two hit 1 million, and then now it's like I think there's one with like 6 million. There's one with 4 million. There's another one with 3.5. Like I think there's like 8 of them right now that are over 1 million
oh wow.
in terms of like reels reach. And then so it started to have me realize like, you know what, maybe there is some value here. Maybe
Mm,
this is landing. This is um, maybe this is useful for some people, you know. And
good.
I get very, very touched when uh, I get messages, especially from other men who are saying, hey, like, you know, I thought I was the only one. I thought,
Mm,
you know, the same sort of messages my wife would get
mm,
early on. And, you know, some people saying like, hey, I, I took this to heart. Like, thank you for saving my marriage. Like, I, I was able to turn things around. I was able to change the direction that we were going in because
mm,
I listened, because I finally got the message. And
mm,
yeah, it's very rewarding just to know that it is getting out there and it is helping, you know, some people. And you know, there's going to be a lot of other people I constantly see women are tagging their husbands, and my wife used to do that to me all the time. She used to, you know, tag me, and I wasn't even on Instagram. I was just like, what are you tagging me in this stuff for? Like, you know, I'm not on Instagram anyway. But then it was when our marriage hit a low point, and I listened to one of those audios, and it helped me see her perspective. It helped me see things in a new light and see where I was responsible for the problem, and because I was responsible for the problem, I could also create the solution as well.
mm.
You know, it was taking ownership
Sure,
of it,
yeah.
taking ownership of the past, taking ownership of the problem, but
Mm,
then that means I can also take ownership of the future,
mm,
right? And
right.
yeah, just, you know, the fact that just little snippets, little stories that I hear from different content creators drives me to keep doing this.
Right, right. Well, I absolutely love what you do. I came across one of your videos. Um, in my reels. I was just going through my reels, and you showed up, and it was a video of this conflict between the wife when she's going through her PMS, and how you handle the situation. And I was like, oh my God, who is this guy? Like, do such men exist? So I opened up your page, and then I went through your stuff, and then we connected, and it was really overwhelming because this is what women want. This is how we want to be seen, how we want to be supported. And then to see that there was a man doing it out there was amazing. Like, okay, he gets me. Like, I don't have to communicate. He exactly knows what he needs to do. Was amazing. And then I saw a lot of men were following you, and I was like, oh my God, then that creates more space for men to understand how they need to show up. And my whole thing for having you on my thing was because I wanted people at my part of the world to understand. Like, men don't understand there is a lot of masculine energy, a lot of a patriarchal culture where men do want to do what you're showing, but they're suppressed uh, because the parents don't support it or the culture doesn't support it. So I really wanted to give that flavor to them that, listen, it's okay, look what they're doing, that's amazing, their marriage is working. Why can't we in our space, in our country, have more of that as well, you know? So thank you so much, first of all, for doing that for so many of us and giving us hope that we can save marriages and be open, be ourselves, be vulnerable, you know. and if you own our side of the story, we can make it work.
Mm.
And I do believe that, if I'm not wrong, you have two programs coming up. I think you said by September. Would you shed some light on that?
Yeah, well, it's again, it was something that we noticed a pattern with what people were asking for,
Mm,
the s- similar challenges that people were facing, and we thought, well, you know what, we've been through it, and uh, and we've been through it. We've come up with our own tools on it. You know, it's not going to be for everybody, but again, it's
right.
just another resource. And
Mm,
so, uh, you know, one is the self care guide for stay at home moms, right? Or
okay.
just moms in general, or just stay at home parents, right? It
Right.
isn't necessarily just the moms, but it's just, you know, how do you how do you take ownership of your life? How do you like keep filling your own cup so that you're not constantly feeling like you're running on fumes, running empty, right?
Mm,
What are
mm,
different ways? And you know, it it, it could be so many different things that you can do. So, um, so there's that, you know, just filling your own cup first, nourishing yourself so that you can show up better for your family.
mm,
And so there's that. There's the constructive conflict
mm,
course that we're working on as well, which is uh, talking about that constructive versus destructive speaking and listening, right? It's funny because the the problem with me is I'm a bit of again, that perfectionism, trying to jam too much stuff into something, and at the
right.
same time we're also realizing like this is for a lot of our audience is our new parents who don't have a lot of time, who
Mm,
aren't going to be able to uh, dive deep and do a 1 hour webinar or do a 3 day course or do a 1 week retreat or
mm,
anything. It's like, no, they only have 15 minutes tops. So
right.
that's why we're also working right now on uh, basically an a la carte course for new parents who are, especially for those in the fourth trimester, but also for new parents, maybe not even new parents, but just like parents who have already been through it, and then being able to go back and recognize what are some of the resentments that got planted during that fourth
Mm,
trimester, during that time of extreme stress and survival mode, and how can we clean those up? How can we
mm,
learn some communication techniques to have more empathy for our partners, to be able to diffuse conflict or diffuse anger right away, right? To be able to uh, help our partners feel seen and heard, and allow them to feel nourished so that they
right.
can show up better.
Mm,
So yeah, so that's the focus. So I'm actually like, you know, right now on my profile it says coach. I'm actually going to be scaling back on that, not doing so much coaching, but uh, just focus on creating that content.
okay.
Um, I still love the DMs. I still love the, you know, being able to think on the fly for people, but
Right.
it's also like, you know what, like I I also really want to just focus on what I know, because
Mm,
frankly, you know, complete transparency, I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not a certified coach. I have not been through training like you have been through, right? I believe you did your training with Marissa Pierce.
no, I did it with Shalia Daly.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay, cool.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, but like, you know, I'm not there. I'm just a guy who has been through some experiences and I talk about it.
Mm,
Right? So,
mm,
but that doesn't necessarily that doesn't mean my life is perfect. That doesn't mean that our relationship is perfect. That just
mm.
means that, well, we've been through an experience, and hopefully our experience can help other people. Right. And
Right, right.
Yeah.
I think
And
experience more than the certification or the degrees, the experience itself speaks volumes because you've been in that situation, right? So you know exactly how it feels, and that what makes the audience more relatable to the audience because you're speaking from experience. So that's where you catch the thing, right? Somebody can be certified, but if they have not been through that, they can't talk about it because before I got my certification, I was already doing this coaching thing. I wasn't aware. It was not till I met Shali and she said, "You're already doing it. You're just not aware of it. You might as well just start doing it." And I got so stuck on, no, I need a certification because in my country, I wouldn't be recognized and I need a degree and all that. And she said, "Listen, you're already doing that, Mavish. You've been doing it for a year and helping so many people. What you're telling me now, I'm going through your stuff. It's just about that mindset again, like, thinking that you're not worth it or having that self-doubt. No, I can't do that. So that's how I overcame that. So for what you're doing, when I came to your page, I didn't care if you had a certification or not. What you were talking about just made it so relatable. It's like that's exactly what we need. So I think that's more important than anything in this space for all of us, I believe so.
thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No,
Uh,
so yeah, it is very good to yeah, yeah, to keep that in mind. And again, like, everybody's going to be different, and for some people it's uh, again based off of belief systems and values and all that, right? It's just another segment of the audience, another segment of the population where yes, they would rather deal with somebody who has been through an experience, and then for some people they might value the certification more,
right.
right? And that's totally fine
Yeah.
too, right? And I think that's one of the things where uh, as a society, as a civilization, we just um, it doesn't always have to be black and white. It doesn't always have to be binary, right?
Right.
Just because there's one way that works doesn't mean every other way is wrong,
Was good. Right.
and
Absolutely. Right.
that's so important to apply on a micro level in our relationships, and with ourselves, and being gentle with ourselves too, right? And like,
Yes.
what approach is going to work best for us,
Mm.
right?
Yes.
Like, kind of going back to when I was experimenting with stoicism versus uh, uh, honest vulnerability. It's
Yes.
like,
Yes.
no, neither extreme works
Mm.
perfectly on its own,
Mm.
right? I need to find my own formula and
Absolutely.
adjust and adapt. Yeah.
Yeah, this is you said this is so right. I had a friend who reached out and she was having issues with her husband, and I referred her to your page, and she looked at your page and she came to me and said, "Oh my God, this guy's amazing. This is not going to work in my culture, in our culture." And I said, "Listen, sometimes you get the model in front of you. Now you're going to take that if you're smart, and you're going to see how you're going to make it work with you and your husband. So take the example and now see how you're going to change it and mold it for you and your husband to work to make this thing work out." And then it took her a while, it took her 2 3 weeks, and then she came back and said, "Bingo, I just found a solution." And now it's worked out for her. So it's just having the strategy or the outlook right in front of you and trying to understand. You don't have to exactly do what the person is saying in front of you, but kind of like understanding how you're going to take that and make it work for you and your partner.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that's, my issue sometimes with some courses as well, where it's just like, okay, well, here's the 6 steps to a happy marriage, and it's just
Oh,
like, well,
no.
okay,
Yeah.
maybe for your marriage,
Right.
right? So for me, it's like I would rather look at what are the common denominators, and what are the uh, yeah, what are the common denominators? What's the checklist, right? Am I taking accountability for my own emotions, for my own reactions, right? Am I seeing and nurturing my partner's inner child,
Mm.
right? Am I giving emotional safety to my partner's inner child? Am I also holding them capable and accountable for our greater vision, for the greater
Mm.
vision? Am I holding even that vision for our lives together? Am I
Mm.
holding a vision for our future together? Or am I just focused on the next 5 minutes and how that's making me feel, and my current feelings now dictating my future reality, right? And so
Mm.
really it's just about taking personal development and then applying it on an interpersonal level, just not just to ourselves anymore, but also to our partners. And if we were to take, say, like a lot of this gentle parenting approach, which is so hard, but if we were to take some of this parenting advice and we apply it to our partners, it's like, well, we don't want to be parenting our partners, but at the same time, it's like there is an element of that that we need,
Yes.
that we can be applying, and there's also an element of that that we can be applying to ourselves as
Mm.
well,
Mm.
reparenting ourselves, taking ownership of our own internal monologues, our own internal stories, um, and not relying on our partner who is an infallible, who is an imperfect person to begin with, not
Mm.
relying on them to be our rock all the time,
Mm.
right?
It's not fair
Some
on them.
It's not fair on them,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Sometimes if we need a rock, just say it. Just say,
Mm.
hey, I really need a rock. Are you okay? You are
Right.
you able to be my rock right
Yeah.
now?
In this
Set them up for
space.
it. Yeah.
Mm.
Set them
Yeah.
up for it. Hey, there's
Mm.
a storm coming.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
are you able to take care of that? Or should I just go and smoke a cigar? Should I,
Right.
like,
Right. Or speak to a friend, or something that would help you in that
yeah,
space.
yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely.
exactly.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And then
Yes.
also expressing gratitude too, right? I
Mm.
think like we just I recorded an audio yesterday. My wife started to put together the video for it, and then we've been practicing it all morning. And it was just like, thank you for she. We were both so tired this morning, and she comes down and she's like, thank you for putting the boys' lunches together. For thank you for taking the dog out, right? And
Right.
it's like to the point where it's cheesy, but it's like we're laughing about it. We're like, hey, you know what? This is really nice, because the rest of the time we're like just doing all these things and then
Autopilot just doing. Yeah.
quietly resenting, like, hey, how come you don't see me doing all this,
Mm.
right? I'm doing
Mm.
all this and you haven't seen me, you haven't like recognized anything. And sometimes we'll look at our partner and think, well, that's what you're supposed to be doing, right? Oh, you're supposed
Right.
to be paying the bills, you're supposed to be bringing home, you are the breadwinner, or it's
Mm.
like you are supposed to be taking care of the children. But it's like, how about just recognizing it every now and then,
Yeah.
right?
That's so
Just,
important.
yeah, it can make such a big difference.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Uh, Thank you so much for coming forward and doing that. Best of luck with the programs. I believe they will be out by September. I believe you said you're not doing any coaching right now because you're taking the space to make your programs. But if people do want to reach out, you think the best place is on your Instagram,
Yeah.
right? This page.
Yeah, on my Instagram, custom tailored man, which who knows if that name is gonna stick. um, I also, I am still getting a lot of inquiries for coaching. I do. You could also just send an email to customtailoredman@gmail.com.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but generally, it's like I will have people fill out an intake form just to make sure that we are a good match, right? I don't want to present myself as some expert in an area that I cannot help in, right?
Mhm.
So, just getting some background and whether my experience can help or not uh,
Okay.
will be determined. And yeah, I just, we'll see. Just keep following, just keep engaging, and
Yes.
yeah, and keep sharing. I think that's the most beautiful thing is when I see people sharing and saying like, "This is the first time I've cried in a long time,"
Mm.
or when the men are sharing and saying like, "Wow, I really needed to hear this,"
Mm.
right? I
Right.
feel like I've
Absolutely.
been slapped in the face, but at least I'm awake now,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Like
Yes. Right.
that's just such a beautiful thing
It
to
is.
hear. Yeah.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Next time, I want you and your wife to come together on my show. That'd be
Yes, I would love
great.
that. Yes.
and we can talk more about you and your wife, what you guys are doing together and all. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for joining in. Thank you once again, Will. Have a wonderful day, evening, night, wherever everyone is at. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.